What's the work? Cool. All good. So yeah, before we get into it, leave in the chat where you're from. Because I know again, like I said, we got people joining from different areas. Any questions during the call, leave them in the chat. I'll try and keep an eye on any questions or anything as they come in. And yeah, we are recording, so we are all good to go. Um, quick message chat. Right, we'll make a. Here we go. Yeah, make a start now. So essentially, what we're going to be covering on this call, because I know, hopefully, I shared a little bit about what we're going to cover. Essentially, the big thing is how to create a meal plan to help you lose fat that you can actually stick to. Obviously, now we're in April, going into the summer, it's to help you lose 5, 10 kilos by then, and then how you can ultimately keep that weight off long term, what to do to keep that routine, to keep it off, because like a lot of you probably know, it's one thing to lose the weight, it's something completely different to then to lose it and then be able to keep it off long term and build it into a lifestyle that you can actually sustain. So it's going to be going into firstly how to set your calories, how to build a meal plan around your calories that's meeting your target, how you stay consistent in real life, because you can have the perfect plan. If you can't make it fit real life, then there's no point because it won't last. And yeah, how to make it work long term. So yeah, a little bit about me because I know some of you will know a little bit about my story. I'll go into a little bit of it here. There are layers to the story and more things I've shared about myself recently that I didn't share for ages. But the big motivation for me is, like you might see, my brother Toby. So growing up, fit and healthy kid to the age of 9, no issues, normal like brother to brother relationship. Hit the age of 9, we started noticing changes in his behavior. Had to take him to get checked for a brain scan. We knew something wasn't right, and then at that time was diagnosed with a terminal brain illness called adrenoleukodystrophy. At that time, only given 12 to 18 months to live, which came completely out of nowhere. Um, Massive shock at the time for us as a family. I don't think at the time, because I was only 11, don't have a photo of me. Well, that was a few years ago, but yeah, back then, because I was only 11, I don't think I fully comprehended the situation. But what it did was brought life into really sharp focus when you're told you only have this long left with someone that's so close to you. It definitely makes you appreciate every single moment that you have that much more. And that's a big part of kind of what underlies everything that I do now. And that part of my story was something that I didn't really share because the whole story what came out July last year. I fully shared everything on YouTube. That's when I started the YouTube channel, started growing that side of it, started sharing my story. And yeah, I started firstly in the gym 2021, skinny, insecure, like it's kind of separate to the story about Toby. Mainly looking to build my own confidence, grew up very insecure, very shy. Just needed something to give myself that confidence to just kind of be who I wanted to be. I used to be very scared about putting myself out there as who I was, and the gym has been a big part in just developing myself, and obviously then going on to do uni, do sports science, not knowing where I wanted to take my life, then just falling into personal training, just thought it was the right way to go. And then it's kind of now turned into, yes, personal training, but then also moving into online fitness coaching now, which is kind of what I'm starting to branch more into so I can have more impact, help more people. And yeah, ultimately, it's all driven by a lot by Toby, a lot by my own health struggles that I've shared in a YouTube video a little while back. I'm not going to go into all that here, but that's all on my YouTube if you want to go learn more about the stuff that I'm going through now. But where I'm at now is I'm working with my own coach who's yeah, kind of guiding me on my own journey because I know exactly what to do. But like a lot of you probably know, it's one thing to know what to do, but then it's a completely different thing to then go and put that into practice and do it. So that's why I now have my own coach who's guiding me, and I've made more progress in the last like couple months than I made in literally like the 3 years before that, and that's even with health issues going on that are maybe affecting that. So um, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at the moment, where I've come from. Did uni, did ran the London Landmarks Half Marathon 2023 because when Toby was diagnosed, they gifted us a trip to Barcelona. So a few years ago, ran the half marathon to kind of pay back, make a wish for what they gave to us. So that's a little bit about the backstory, and that was Toby fairly recently, always in and out, well, quite often more recently been in and out of hospital with kidney stones and just constant things coming up. But he's a fighter. He keeps pushing through everything that's thrown at him. And yeah, that's ultimately why I do what I do. You got to like when you're so close to someone who's in this position, I'm just so motivated to help other people make the most of the life that they have, build the confidence, and yeah, just get them to a place where they can live life fully. So moving into the main part, why you're probably stuck with your fat loss at the moment. A big part is, because I hear all the time, people going on strict diets. They tried, maybe it's keto, maybe it's carnivore, maybe it's vegan, Slimming World, Weight Watchers, all the different diets. Nothing has worked. And it's just the constant cycle of trying to force strict diets that yes, they work for a while, you get the weight off, but then it's very hard to keep that weight off, keep it off long term. Because I believe that I'll get more into this, but if your diet doesn't fit your life, what you want, what you enjoy, then you're not going to sustain it long term. Another thing that I hear a lot is doing well in the week, and then falling off at the weekend. So you stay on track Monday to Friday, you're in routine, you're working, you're doing the same sort of things day to day, and it's easier to plan. Then the weekend hits, and that's when you maybe have the one-off plan meal. You're out of routine, you're going out, you've got kids to deal with, whatever it is. You have the one bad thing, and then you let one thing derail your entire weekend, and then you think start again Monday. But that's when you're in that kind of cycle of you're binging at the weekends to try and tell yourself that you're going to start again Monday. And then it's that thing of like it works for a few days and then you're back at square one. And then you just keep going back and forth, never actually making progress. And yeah, I suppose kind of on that, one bad day means progress ruined. So a big part of this is trying to just make it a because I think we're our own worst enemy in terms of we'll have one bad day, then we make our situation worse by pushing ourselves further down. So a big part of the way that I like to work with people is that we're making room for the things that you enjoy intentionally as part of the plan. Obviously, mostly keeping it clean, but then also making room for the foods that aren't necessarily as healthy, making room for the meals out. And it's kind of that 80-20 rule, which again, I will get into. So yeah, probably what you're looking for instead, feel more in control around food, lose fat sustainably without starting over and still enjoying meals out and weekends. That's exactly what we're gonna get into. So how? Yeah, the 4-step Sculpt to Sustain blueprint, how you can do this to drop 5 to 10 kilos, still eating your favorite foods ahead of summer. So, firstly, obviously, the most important thing when it comes to fat loss is calories in, calories out. So, how much should you actually be eating? Firstly, it's setting your targets. Now, a lot of diets, they go really low, people go really strict on themselves, and then that's where diets just aren't sustainable. If you're so low to the point of starving yourself, you're not going to stick to it. And then obviously if your calories are too high, if you're not in a deficit, then you're not going to lose weight. So it's finding the balance between the two. In terms of where that should be, roughly 500 calories but below maintenance will lead to 1 pound of fat loss per week, which you can look at as 6 kilos, maybe more if you're losing water weight as well within 3 months. But as a rough deficit, 500 to maybe slightly higher is a good target to aim for. So it would be good to, on this call, to work out someone's calories. If someone's happy to unmute and we can work out your calorie targets on the call. Go on, Cassie.
Phone. Yeah, go for mine.
Cool. So,
Obviously, we've done it a little bit, but it'd be good to know how to work it out. I'm just on the
yeah.
phone a minute.
So calorie calculators, you can go online. All the calorie calculators are the exact same thing. You put in your height, your weight, your gender, your age, your activity level, and then it will give you your calorie target. So, for Cassie, firstly, your age.
I had to think about that. 38.
Yeah, tough one. I'm assuming female. Height in centimeters. Go on.
Joe, I don't know where I went then. It just kicked me out.
Yeah, height in centimeters.
Yeah. Oh, 180.
180. And your weight in kilos.
Oh, what was I on in kilos? 106, I think it was,
Right. And
from
then
last
your
memory.
activity as a rough estimate, sedentary, light exercise 1 to 3 times a week, moderate exercise 4 to 5 times a week, or active.
Yeah, so this is the bit that always confuses me because I obviously sit at a desk, but I
Yeah,
still get my 10K in and I run and I cycle, so I never know where I sit with that. Would it be
fine.
more sedentary still,
Yeah. We can say that for
possibly?
now. A good point on this is with your calorie targets, always underestimate rather than overestimate. Obviously, if the goal is fat loss, then
Okay,
it's better to estimate your calories as lower than what they actually are than what um, they actually are. So then you will still make the progress. And then a lot of it is just trial and error as you go. You won't know until you start tracking, until you start eating like around the target. So
and
yeah,
yeah, so then you can
roughly,
adjust as you go, kind of thing.
yeah. So maintenance for you at the moment,
Yeah.
2200 to maintain. In terms of
Okay.
then looking for that 500 deficit for around, and it might be more initially, 0 0.5 kilos of fat loss per week. So you're looking at 1700 per day for that. So
Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
first is working out that calorie target, which again, like I said, you can do online. If you're watching the recording back on YouTube, I'll put a link to one in the description. But next thing, obviously important again, is protein. To keep it simple to start with, aim for a minimum of 1.6 kilo, sorry, 1.6 grams per kilo of body weight. So just times your um, body weight in kilos by 1.6, and that'll give you a rough target. For a lot of people, that's somewhere around 100 up to 120, 130, 140, so between up 100, 150. Again, we'll get more into protein. Carbs to fats, you can keep flexible. I know some people like me, you just like carbs, so it's fine to, if you can fit it into your calories, you can have more carbs. And then fats, we are looking for a minimum of around zero point 0.6 to zero point 0.8 grams per kilo per day, because fats are obviously important for hormone health, overall health, and they won't directly lead to fat gain if you're in the calorie deficit. So first step now would be to write down your, so work out your target, write it down, so then you know how much in total to aim for. Um, Next point, eating healthy on its own isn't enough. Like I said about before, fat loss comes down to the calories that you're putting in versus the calories that you're burning. If you think you're eating healthy, you're eating clean foods, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to lose fat, because it's that energy balance that is science. If you're in a calorie surplus, you're eating clean foods. Quite often, it's the fattier foods that are healthy that often bump calories up a lot. You can still overeat them. So even if it's healthy, the unprocessed foods, which we're looking to keep you to most of the time, you can still go over on the calories. So just be mindful of that when it comes to tracking. The next point, how many meals do you want to eat in terms of making this into a plan that you can fit into your life? Because some people will tell you that it's better to like fast 16/8 or better to only have 1 meal a day for fat loss. The meal timing on its own will not be the thing that dictates fat loss. And again, it comes down to your total calorie um, intake. And you can have, again, there might be some evidence that it's better to have like a shortened feeding window. I don't believe it's necessary for most people. Somewhere around 3 to 6 meals a day, including your snacks, so like breakfast, lunch, dinner, a couple of snacks in the day, is fine. Obviously, just making sure that you're sticking to your overall calorie targets across that. Anything less than three, I wouldn't usually recommend because if you're trying to gain or at least keep that lean muscle that's helping you like look more toned, look better, feel better, anything less than that, it's just harder to keep that muscle up. So in general, I would say minimum 3 meals a day, but base it around your obviously your appetite, your like what your favorite meal of the day is, and also what's your schedule. How can you make this fit into your lifestyle? So moving on. Yeah, now what foods to actually eat. Now, I'm not a big fan of saying that you have to eat this and you can't eat these foods. Always the big thing is the protein because most people don't get anywhere near enough. Obviously, we've worked out your target now, the 1.6 grams per kilo. You can think of it as long as you're getting a decent protein source within each meal in the day, maybe an extra protein snack or two, you're going to hit your protein target. When you start to work it out, it's not that difficult to hit it. It just needs intention because when you're not purposely trying to get more in, you're not gonna, well, it's hard to hit your target because a lot of people breakfast, lunch are just really small portions of protein, and then dinner is usually where most of it comes. So it's always just, yeah, try and prioritize a 20 to 30 gram protein source within each meal with a protein snack or two throughout the day, and that will get you close to um, your target. Next thing, carbs. Again, like I said, you can be flexible with carbs and fats. It's just being aware of your portion sizes, which is where the calorie tracking comes in, just so you know that what you're having is keeping you within your calorie targets. So definitely don't avoid carbs for fear that some people will tell you that carbs will make you fat because they won't, because it's your total calorie intake that will dictate it more than that. Obviously, healthy fats around zero point 0.6 to zero point 0.8 grams per kilo of body weight, I believe, per day. Rough, as just like a rough estimate. Like I said, good for hormone health, good for overall health, good for energy, brain health, all of that. And then again, treats and healthy snacks, you can make them part of your plan, 80/20. If they're um yeah, 10 to 20% of your total calorie intake per day can go on the less healthy foods, the things that you enjoy that you don't want to give up. And ultimately, that's how you create a plan that you don't hate, that you feel like you can actually stick to because it's making room for what you enjoy, but it's then not having any guilt around it because it's within your plan, and then being able to get yourself straight back on track after you've had them. So, on to the next slide, how you turn this into a meal plan. So, like I said, choose your protein sources, 1.6 grams per kilo of body weight per day, space it out if possible. In terms of how that looks on your plate, protein sources about, you can think like a palm sized portion of chicken, of fish, of like beef, whatever your favorites are. Go for that. Veg, half your plate roughly with veg. Veg is what you can fill up on so much volume for very little calories. So again, just go for what you like having because it's going to fill you up, like I said, for not much calories. Making the room for the healthy fats. These are the things that you need to be mindful of volume because they are high calorie for the amount that you use. So try and avoid pouring half a bottle of olive oil when you're cooking your meats. When you're spooning like peanut butter out, make sure you're weighing it because it's so easy to just overeat on these foods. Like I said, carbs to fats can be flexible, so don't be too strict on that. And like I said, with the treats, 10 to 20% of your total calorie target. And yeah, enjoy them. Don't have any guilt around having them because you know that they're fitting into your overall target. Now, what about real life? Because this is the big part now in terms of how you make a plan, stick long term, how you avoid the mindset of you have a bad day at the weekend and then you think it's all ruined. So, in terms of cheat meals or eating out, generally what I'll say is you can roughly fit one off-plan meal, one meal out into your overall plan. Like I said, it's your overall calories that matters more than anything else. So if you know that you have something coming up at the weekend and you might be slightly higher on the calories, you can slightly reduce either earlier in the day or the days leading up to it. And if your overall calorie intake across the whole course of 7 days is within a deficit, then that one day will never throw you off completely. And this is where you can't hold any, or you shouldn't hold any guilt about that meal that you had the next days after, because that's where people have a bad evening out, a night out, and then just let the whole like next few days go completely as well. So it's just being mindful, keeping yourself mentally on track, not letting yourself go, and just remembering that you can make it part of your plan. Like I put here, you can budget your calories towards the weekend if you want to. If you got things coming up, that's completely fine. Um, Alcohol, again, I'll usually say you can make room for alcohol if you want it. It's about choosing the foods that you really enjoy that you don't want to give up. So I never want to say to people you can't eat XYZ food because you can make room for whatever you want within your plan. Again, just think 80-20 rule. If you can fit it into that 10 to 20% of your calories, that's fine. Obviously, ideally going for lower calorie where possible, like um, spirits are obviously pretty good. Prosecco, I believe, is good. Certain drinks are higher calorie than others, so it's just being mindful. Gin and tonics, slimline tonics are good. Um, yeah, just being mindful of the calories and just knowing that obviously if you have less of the wine, you can put more calories into more food. If you want more food volume, then it's better to have less of the drinks and the liquid calories and that sort of thing. So next slide, do you need to follow a meal plan exactly? Now, how I'll structure it with clients, there are kind of two main ways that will work it. Either, because what I'll do is I'll give people a meal plan, a rough meal plan for that's meeting their targets initially. Not that it's to be followed exactly, but it's nice just to have a rough idea. And either you can eat, if you're fine eating the same or similar foods all the time, then you can do that. You can just have the same sort of meals, you know, they're hitting your targets. That's fine. If you like something more flexible, you can vary your meals, your snacks through the day and kind of more flexibly track it as long as you're tracking every little thing and you're staying within your calorie targets and most importantly, hitting your protein. So you can be flexible if you want to. It's kind of up to you if you prefer more structure, which like me, I will eat the same meals every single lunch, every single breakfast, every day, and I'm fine with that. If you're not, then that's fine. It's just being mindful of obviously your daily calorie intake. So next point on how to track calories. I know when I'm working with a lot of people, they struggle with the calorie tracking side of it, and I know can take a little bit of getting used to, but it's really not that difficult once you get the hang of it. Choose your calorie tracking app. There is MyFitnessPal out there. There's one called OneFit that I'll use with clients where you just log. It's simple enough to log all the food you want. You either search for it or scan the barcode, and then that'll input it. You just need to make sure that you put in the weight of the food that you've had. So always be weighing out how much food that you use. Within these apps, you can create meals if you have the same sort of thing you can create it as a meal, obviously making sure the next time you do it that you're weighing out all your ingredients. And then next time you come back to it, you can just log the meal that you saved in the, and it's not a thing that you need to do forever. It's just, I highly recommend doing it. If you've never done it before, start doing it to build that awareness around what you're eating now relative to those calorie targets that we've set. That gap, if you're not in a deficit now, chances are, well, that's the reason why you're not losing fat. If you're on a deficit and you're still not losing fat, maybe there's something else going on. But for 95% of the time, it's because you're not in a calorie deficit. So it's just firstly, just starting to track everything that you eat. And this includes the small nibbles, the snacks, any little picky things that you have throughout the day, they add up a lot. So it's just making sure you log and keep track of all of those. And probably the most important point is it's never about being perfect because, like I said, with the all or nothing mindset, where you let one slightly off plan day ruin your next 3, 4, 5 days, it's about accepting that it's never going to be 100% perfect. You can't track 100% accurately, and that's fine. It's just having that awareness that keeps your mind in the loop. That means that you're not going to go mindlessly snacking because you're aware of how many calories are in those different foods. And yeah, ultimately, it's a case of, like when I'm working with anyone, you never know exact targets right away. So you start tracking your own targets, see how your body is responding to that. If obviously if your body's not changing based on a certain calorie target that we're currently on, then changes might need to be made. And it's a lot of trial and error, finding that plan that fits your life, and then making sure that one, you're hitting the targets that you need to be, and two, it's in a way that's sustainable, that you don't feel like you're starving yourself and that you can stick to long term. So coming to the end now, the big point and the big part of something that I've experienced personally, and a lot of people find, is that obviously you can have the perfect plan, but it's nothing without implementation. And long term, for a lot of people, accountability is that missing piece that just makes everything stick long term. Like I was saying, for me as a coach, I know all the information that I can need to know to get to where I want to go, but I've needed that outside voice, someone guiding me, telling me what I know that I need to do to make sure that I do it. So whether it's a friend, whether it's like a coach, if you're thinking about that, just have someone outside of you make, like, holding you accountable to what you say you want to achieve, and it makes hitting your plan, like hitting your targets, that much easier. And yeah, like I was saying, but it's not about being perfect. When you have that person guiding you, telling you that it's okay if you had that slightly off plan day, doesn't matter, get yourself straight back on track today. So it's just kind of that like constant reassurance that a lot of people often find that they need. So that is, I believe, the end of the slides. What? Yeah, yeah, right out here. So essentially now, obviously, if you're on this call, if you're watching the call back on YouTube, you probably have a goal to get to X weight by summer. And either after the call stay, you can go and do nothing, because there are a lot of people that have goals, they like to talk about them, they never actually take action on them, and that's fine. If they're happy staying where they are. Either you can try it on your own. A lot of people, when they're new to it, they want to try it on their own, see how they get on with doing it. So if you've never tracked before, start doing it, see how you get on, because often that can work for people. But then, like I said, the accountability is the thing that kind of makes this stuff stick long term. So if you did want to like learn more about coaching, not that you have to go for anything right away, we can have a quick conversation about how that could look, talk about your goals, where you want to be, and kind of map out a plan to get you there. So if that's something that you're interested in, if you go over to my either my Instagram or my WhatsApp, if you have my WhatsApp, and just message me the word game plan, we can book in a 15-minute call to talk through your situation, where you want to be, and put together that plan to get you there. So I think that is all of the slides. So for anyone on the call, do we have any questions based on what we've covered? We've got a few minutes left. Feel free to unmute if you want
Nothing from me, I'm afraid, Joe. All
to.
good.
Nothing. Yes, we are all good. Cool. Well, yeah, thank you for coming on the call. For anyone that's, well, it will be put onto YouTube anyway. So if you're watching back on YouTube, I put all my links in the description. But yeah, hope you got value from the call. Um, and yeah, not sure how to end this. So thank you, and I will stop recording now. And